Welcome to a football show, Thursday edition. That is Nick Suss. I am Braden Gall. We have lots of things to discuss today on the show. A premature Super Bowl prediction, sure to go wrong, coming up a little bit later on. Do we like the NFL scheduling strategy and model? A lot of new things happening this year. We have a few games to talk about with the Tennessee Titans, but mostly the scheduling model itself. What are they doing on Wednesday nights and all over the world? Lots of stuff to get to today on the show. And, of course, the main topic, does Cam Ward actually have a legitimate NFL star power? Did former Titans quarterbacks not have that? Was Marcus Mariota somebody that people tuned in for? Was Vince Young somebody that people tuned in for? All kinds of stuff. So we'll get to all of that today on the show. I'm Braden Gall. That is Nick Suss. Nick, what's up?
Hey, yeah, no, let's talk about relative star power and relative fame in the NFL. That's a May topic, right?
Look, Netflix thinks he's going to be a star, or maybe not. We'll see. So
not to spoil the conversation, but you know who else has been on Netflix's quarterback? Marcus Mariota.
I'm aware. I'm aware. Okay. Can Cam Ward do something no other Titans quarterback has ever accomplished, except for that guy who already did it? Okay, so we'll get to a lot of stuff. We are, of course, Football Show brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and 5-time Liquor Store of the Year, craft beer retail fridge, the best in the city, as awarded by all of you, Nashville beer drinkers. You can get East Nashville Beer Works in there. You can get Tennessee Brew Works in there. You can get Yazoo Brewing Company in there. 3 of the best local craft beers you will ever have in this great and wonderful fair city. Look, they have lots of other things too. Bourbon prices and availability are coming down and are more available, and you can get an enormous selection of bourbon at Sinkers Beverages. As we've discussed on the show previously, you can get a bag of olive juice as well. I found a brand new margarita mix that my wife loves when I was in there last time. We found wine that we found our go-to wine because of Savannah, my girl Savannah up there at Sinkers. She turned us on to this perfect white wine that I don't know anything about, but my wife loves it, and we drink it all the time now at dinners. They'll take care of you, man. Anything you've got, anything you need, sign up for the in-crowd, and also you can have the booze delivered directly to your house if you search Uber Eats, search Sinkers Beverages. Okay. All right, if you want to get into the comment section, please do so. Already a few of you guys in there. 10, Joey, Coach Wills, what's going on? Good to see all of you guys there as well. And if you want to steer the conversation in any particular direction, please let us know. One more thing before we go, before we get started here. Before we go, Nick. I've been working along with a lot of other independent local media in town with an organization called Press Forward. It's a national organization, but we now have a chapter here in Middle Tennessee. It's called Press Forward Middle Tennessee. It is an organization working on developing and cultivating a really robust and strong local independent news scene for a bunch of different markets. I think they're in 44 states, but they're in Middle Tennessee. And we got a quick little survey. I took it yesterday. It takes it's like a 5-minute survey. It's anonymous. It's linked in the show notes on YouTube and on the podcast app. It is Press Forward midtn.news. Press Forward midtn.news. It's a nonprofit that is trying to figure out exactly what this market needs from its news. So we need to know from people who care about Middle Tennessee news and consume and read Middle Tennessee news. We need to know what you think and how you get your news and where you get your news and what part of the diet is missing. Where are there holes in coverage? It takes 5 minutes. It's anonymous. It's Press Forward midtn.news. It will be very, very helpful, and it gives you, the audience, you, the listener, the reader of news, the consumer of news, an opportunity to actually shape future coverage in our market. So Press Forward, great organization doing good work to try to keep independent journalism alive and strong and robust and all kinds of good stuff. Right, Nick? Sounds good?
Given the news of the last 2 weeks, this is the best possible thing you could say with Middle Tennessee and shaping in the same sentence.
Or drawing, perhaps? Or just lines? There's lines everywhere.
There's been a lot of shaping and drawing, and this is for a good cause.
Yeah, there you go.
For whatever side you are on the other causes.
They both do it, Nick. They both do.
I know they do. And his name was pronounced Gary. It's not Jerry. It was Eldridge Gary. Okay, rant over. Go on.
Oh, wow. Okay, hang on. You're serious? The guy in Boston in 1812
The former vice president of the United States.
Oh, I
I'm
didn't
pretty
know
sure it
that.
was Eldridge Gary. Yeah.
Eldridge Gary was the vice president of the United States, number one.
Let me do a double check here, but I'm pretty sure he was the vice president.
Well, so he gerrymandered. That's so good.
Elbridge with a B.
What I found incredibly ironic was when I was looking up and reading up on the history of gerrymandering, which is what I'm going to say from now on, was that he was of course a member of the Democratic Republican Party, meaning the first person who gerrymandered this country was a Democrat and a Republican. Which I find to be delicious irony.
He was only vice president for a year, but he was James Madison's vice president, 1813 to 1814.
Does that even count?
And if you go on Wikipedia, the pronunciation on the first line of his Wikipedia page says G as in Guy. It's Gary. We've been saying his name wrong for 230 years.
Dude, that's first of all, that is so I'll never forget the day that Jason Fitz, I was hosting the morning show on 102.5, and Jason Fitz, we did an entire 12-minute segment on the air unprompted on this subject, and not this subject, but similar, that it's pronounced a GIF. Like it's a GIF. Like like he pronounced it, the guy who created it pronounced it with a hard G as a GIF. And so people have been calling it GIF forever. Or which one is it? No, what do they call it?
I think the guy who invented it calls it a GIF.
GIF, that's right.
But
that's
the G stands for graphic, so you should call it a GIF.
Well, but the guy who invented it gets to call it whatever he wants because he invented it.
It doesn't matter what you call it, but Elbridge Gary's name was in fact Gary.
Oh, I am double checking that. I'm using it on all my other news shows for the next couple of weeks. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for doing that. And I do look, Josh, there you go. G stands for graphic, though. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is the person who invented it. That's all that matters.
And if we want to just filibuster for the rest of the show and talk about weird pronunciation facts that we know, we can. It seems like the commenters love this kind of crap. But apparently. What else are they talking about? What else do
Choosy
we
moms choose GIF. Dude, Jordan, you're always isn't gerrymandering a Seinfeld thing? There we go. Didn't y'all say GIF forever on the air? We did, actually, Nate. Thank you for listening to the show. We would say GIF is what we would say because nobody knew what we were talking about when we said GIF. It was very silly. Okay. So lots of stuff to get to today. Ed Henry, maybe Hulu or Peacock could run reporters with PK, Sus, and TD and just throw in Jared to spice it up. What? Hello? I'm in the room, Ed. I can hear you talking. Okay. I want to get into this Netflix thing. First of all, I think on its surface, on its face, this is a really awesome thing for Titans fans. I don't know how much of last year you want to relive in terms of the games themselves, but I think getting to know your players and some of the names and Cam Ward in particular, I think is going to be really, really insightful and interesting and entertaining and fun, even if it's not the most drama-filled of all the documentaries. Because I don't know about you. I watched the first one, and I really liked the first year. I think it was Mahomes, Cousins, and Mariota, right? Does that sound right?
Yes.
And Mariota famously left the Falcons in the middle of that season, which made for really good television. Cousins, who is the most milquetoast human being I have ever seen play quarterback in all of the NFL, also came off as a very likable and interesting character. And Mahomes is Mahomes. I thought last year was very meh. Burrow's fine. Going back to Cousins, I think was whatever. And then Jared Goff I thought Jared Goff actually was more interesting because of the Rams-Lions kind of journey that he went on and being the number one pick and then getting traded. And I thought there was some intrigue there, but I just didn't think second season was very good. Do you like the documentary before we get into Cam Ward?
Haven't watched it.
Not a single episode of either of the first two seasons.
I saw the first half of the first episode of season 2 because my mom was watching it and I was in the room with her. But other than that, not to divert, Netflix is the streaming service I use the least often. I just never find myself on Netflix, so I never find myself tempted to watch things on Netflix.
You don't like good dramas. That's the problem.
Netflix doesn't have good stuff. We can move on. Netflix has
no. That's not true. That's not true.
Netflix has totally lost the relevancy war. All they have is volume. They've lost the relevancy war.
Yeah, I don't think you understand the number of subscribers that they have worldwide. Them and Google are going to take over the world.
I understand they are, and
So,
they're going to do it with nothing that's interesting.
Dude, I'm not suggesting that 95% of it isn't kind of like slop. It is, but that's what happens. Your cable package has been like that for 50 years.
Yes, and
Like,
I watched the good stuff on cable. I didn't watch the slop, so I'm not going to turn into the slop channel.
There's still very good stuff on Netflix. It's just there's just more bad stuff than there used to be.
The best stuff on Netflix is more ephemeral than the best stuff other places. It disappears more quickly because of the ephemeral nature of Netflix always moving on to the next thing 3 days later.
Well, Stranger Things is great. Mindhunter is great. The Diplomat is great. I can keep going. There's lots of great TV shows, all of which are dramas that you don't watch.
Yes, but you also named two that are Mindhunter's 9 years old at this point.
Sure.
My point is that in the relevancy game of today, of the last 4 years since TV changed in a post-COVID world, and especially in the last 2 years since TV's changed in a post-strike world, they have not created anything new that has grabbed the actual zeitgeist so much as they have continued to put out stuff that has been pretty okay over and over again to not lose their subscriber base.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I don't want to get into this because my wife hardcore disagrees with you because there's a lot of trash on there that she loves. But I like the sports documentaries are also the best. I think of any company that's doing it. Drive to Survive, Full Swing. There's a documentary called Captains about the World Cup captains in 2022. If you're trying to get kids into the 2026 World Cup, it is a great documentary. It also teaches a lot about being on a team and being a leader and everything. So it's really, really awesome. I believe there's a documentary coming about the U.S. men's national team and their journey into the World Cup, which I think has one episode out, which is going to be great. The receiver documentary was okay. George Kittle is a pretty interesting character and all of that. I do think that the untold stuff around college football in particular, I know you probably have a feeling on this, is real lacking in its story. What's on HBO? Is that the new men's national team documentary? Did I get that confused, Coach Wills? Okay, so I don't want to get into a
we don't have to talk about this. The reason why I haven't watched it is because I never open that app. I just forget it's there.
Yeah, that's you're in the minority on that one, but
I understand.
Okay, so the documentary about the World Cup is on HBO. I apologize. Okay, so look, I think the second season, having watched most of the second season and all of the first season, I thought the first season was very good. I thought it was really interesting, but I kind of knew going in it was just they're not trying to like lure in a new audience. Like Full Swing and Drive to Survive, they were designed to go really deep behind the scenes in sports that don't really award that much coverage or access, gave complete access, and let the documentary grow the audience, grow the brand, bring in new fans. F1 has been hugely successful TV ratings wise since the Drive to Survive documentary came out. The NFL obviously doesn't need that. So the question here is going to be, what are the stories that they tell? And I'm going to guess here on some of the stories that they tell on these four quarterbacks. The names are Joe Flacco, Baker Mayfield, Jayden Daniels, and Cam Ward. Like Joe Flacco, I am shocked that they picked. I want to know when they called him and said, "Do you want to be on the documentary?" That's what I want to know. But obviously, going from backup to starter at his age, that's an interesting story, right? People are going to get behind that, especially casuals who aren't diehards. Tampa Bay underachieved mostly. Baker Mayfield had some flashes of brilliance and some injury, and so I think Baker Mayfield's story is going to be a story of sort of adversity. Jayden Daniels was hurt for most of the year, no? Yeah. Or half the year. So he's going to be a lot of adversity for him. Tons of adversity for Cam Ward in his first season. But I think Cam Ward has a chance to come out of here having, like, his is just, I was the number one pick in the draft, and I'm a rookie going through this process for the first time. I think Cam Ward's has a chance to be as interesting as any of the other ones, even though on paper, Jayden Daniels is sort of like the flashing neon light star power.
Yeah, I think that this season, if you're looking at the diverging strategy of season 3 compared to what we got from season 1 and season 2 in premise, is season 1 was you have an MVP caliber quarterback, you have a very good quarterback, and you have a journeyman. 3 levels of quarterback. Season 2 was kind of the same thing, but now Kirk Cousins has been cast in the journeyman role instead of the pretty good role. This season, you don't have your Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow. Maybe they were betting on Jayden Daniels being the guy who would have been that guy. God knows I thought he was going to be that guy. I picked him to win MVP last year. Like, if you start this documentary in the summer, there was a lot of reason to think Jayden Daniels could have been that guy. But the reality is we have 4 players who are all kind of in the same tier of, I don't want to say fame. Baker's very famous. He's been doing commercials since his rookie year, all that stuff. But 4 guys who have, none of them are Joe Burrow, none of them are Patrick Mahomes. None of them are guy who has been to the Super Bowl, guy who is face of the league candidate. Does that mean that this will elevate Cam since he's not competing in attention against Patrick Mahomes? Probably not. Like, people are going to watch the show less if there is less of a reason for them to say, oh, I know that guy, I'm going to turn it on. So you kind of have the trade-off here of he's not going to be distracted from because people are only going to pay attention to the Burrow scenes or to the Mahomes scenes. But also, if there are casual fans who watch this because they want to see the superstar, I don't know the viewership data. It's not like Netflix releases Nielsen ratings and minute data and all that stuff. But I do think that there is a push and a pull here. There is a reason to think Cam can emerge as the star of this season. But there is also reason to think that this season will be the least viewed of the 3 seasons thus far because it lacks the top line A-list star.
I mean, I think Mayfield, to your point, has the biggest Q rating, for lack of a better term,
for sure.
Of this group, and so and also, like, I think the expectations were, although to your point, I think expectations were really high for Daniel. So I think the 2 of them probably came in. Do the teams have some editorial control like Hard Knocks? I think that's a really good question. Most of the time, the Netflix documentary, that all that stuff is like this particular crew gets like they get more access and do a generally better job than almost every other documentary crew out there. Like they are among the best right now. So I will also, I don't have an answer to that.
I have half of an answer here of the showrunner and the 4 directors for this season of Quarterback are all full-time employees of NFL Films. So while the show is produced by Omaha Productions, the showrunner is somebody who is an NFL Films showrunner. And each of the 4 individual directors, I have not yet been able to figure out which director was assigned to which quarterback and whether there was overlap. But each of the 4 individual directors are NFL Films employees, some of whom have worked on Hard Knocks before, some of whom have worked on NFL 100 documentaries, some of whom have worked on other NFL Network projects. But all of the people who are actually directing and running the show are employees of the National Football League. So the editorial control will be kept within the league, even though the production house, Omaha, is technically outside NFL's ownership.
And the league is, to be clear, while the league is merely a collection of owners, and they are going to always hold the Shield's best interest at heart, they're not opposed to generating tension and generating conflict and generating storyline. So I don't know how far they'll push it. I do think this is exclusively about expectations. I think you just got to set your expectations. If you are expecting this to really show you exactly what happened for Cam Ward and the Titans, I don't think you want to go fully all the way there. I think you can expect to see and understand Cam Ward a little bit more. And I do think there's a question, like somebody says, I can't remember who it was that was asking her. I think, here you go. Ed says, I think Ward will come off as boring. I don't know if people who watch the show will appreciate the all ball mentality. This is what I think is really interesting about the decision to have him on, because I think there's a lot of adversity that sells. If you're Netflix, he's a rookie quarterback that sells as a story by itself. Number 1 overall pick sells. I am really fascinated with Cam Ward's personality type on a Titans team relative to, again, like Q rating, star power, whatever phrase you want to use, like gravitational force, right? Like whatever that phrase is you want to use that attracts attention from people outside the market. I'm really interested to see if that happens here, because I think Cam Ward is very interesting. but I kind of understand him a little bit more than some Steelers fan in Pittsburgh or whatever. So I think he's a very interesting human being. Like his relationship with his father, how he operates, how he sees things. I think he's very interesting. I don't know if television is going to agree with that. So I'm really fascinated to see what the response is outside of the market. I think as long as you guys, the Titans fans, go into this with like, man, this is going to be cool. I'm going to enjoy it. It's in the middle of the summer when nothing else is happening. I think as long as that's your expectation, you're going to love it. But I'm curious what the reaction will be from the outside.
You ever heard of this TV show called Friends? You ever heard of Friends?
I have.
When I think about Cam on this season of quarterback, there's actually something pretty fascinating at play here. You look at the promo image that Netflix put out of the 4 quarterbacks, and you've got Baker with his family, and you've got Jayden with his teammates, and you've got Flacco with his family, and you've got Cam as the lone wolf. And he's just out by himself. And it does look like the Nathan Fielder bit of "I'm here with all my friends. They're all smiling just off camera." Right. But the reason I bring up Friends is if you think about the best moments of that show, character by character, the most memorable moments of each individual character, 5 out of the 6 of them, it is almost impossible to think of a memorable moment where they are on their own.
Yeah.
Where there are none of the other friends around. And then Ross, about 50% of his best moments are just kind of him getting a tan or him whitening his teeth or just like weird stuff that is just him off in his own world. There are some characters
like Costanza.
There are some characters, there are some personality types that make for good television because they are interactional. And there are some characters that make for good television because they are lightning rods. And the bet on Cam is that he is going to be the lightning rod figure. I mean, Cam is not an isolated human being. I'm not going to pretend like he sits in his locker by himself listening to My Chemical Romance and like he's not dark emo boy. Like he is a person with a personality.
Sure.
But if Cam is going to flourish in this season, it's going to have to be because Cam is somebody who is interesting as a personality figure.
Yeah.
Not because somebody who's interesting by proxy with the things going on around them. And I don't know.
Don't you think that's what makes him interesting is the layers? Yeah. And like, I find him to be like, look, Ryan Tannehill was a very good player, a very good athlete. I thought he was an average NFL quarterback, but what made him, like, I don't think this is going to sound insulting. It's not meant to be. I just think he was a simple guy. Like I play football and I love my family. And like, I don't think that there was a lot of really complex layering to Ryan Tannehill. And that maybe that's insulting. I don't mean it that way. I think Cam has a lot of intrigue and a lot of layers, but I don't know if it translates into TV. Like, I think he will come off as a very fun, likable, young, talented player trying to figure his way out through the NFL for the first time. Like, that's what it was, right? And so I think he's good. I am truly fascinated because one of the things that I'm very interested in media and in like attention is like the things that we gravitate towards and get it and are obsessed with. Like sometimes they're hard to predict. And so I will be very interested in the outside reaction to his personality, his performance, how they cut him, how they edit him is what I should say. Z Dean says, did you guys see the camera crew for last year? Did you have to keep quiet about it? I think we saw it a couple of times, but I was not in the building the way you were. So
the shortest way to say this is there are always cameras everywhere. And so I'll say there was a period that I kept quiet about it, but the period was so much shorter than you're imagining that it is essentially I did not have to keep quiet about it. You see NFL films at every game. You see NFL films come through buildings when there are certain games that they want to focus on the next week on inside the NFL. People are always around. There was never a point where it looked like, oh, he is filming a Netflix series, but you do see cameras following these guys around.
Yeah, all the time. Here we go. Cam Ward, Daniel. Cam Ward is boring like Mahomes is boring. I didn't think Mahomes is boring, but I'm fascinated by psychology And Joey says, I'm interested to see his interactions as a teammate, especially starting off the season with the whole We Asked saga. He was a clip machine for a few weeks there, so I wonder about the fallout of that. So there is an interesting – it's going to be the journey for him that's going to be interesting. Like, first of all, he gets better on the field. The teams does get better on the field, but also there's tons of changes with the coaching staff that takes place. And I agree that I think he was – do you think he changed his PR approach throughout the course of the year? I don't know if he did.
I don't think he did. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that he got more comfortable being in the NFL, but other than that, I don't think there were significant changes to his style or anything.
I mean, one of the things or the clips that got the most attention, I don't remember what week it was, but I thought it was later in the year when he and Paul got into the play thing, when he was kind of giving Paul a hard time about remember this play. That wasn't early in the year, was it?
That was mid-season or later, yeah.
That's what I thought. So like the We Asked thing kind of happens, and maybe there's a few quotes where he was using some language that maybe his publicist or his agent was like, maybe don't say all that all the time. But other than that, like he was kind of himself from start to finish. So I don't know how much he's going to change throughout this. Again, the other question is, like, what is star power for a Titans quarterback? Like, I don't think Tannehill got the respect he was due necessarily. I think Marcus Mariota was a larger figure than Titans fans remember because of how it ended. I think he came in and had the largest single season turnaround in franchise history and was the number 2 overall pick. And he did it with flash. He did it with running the football. His first season was very good. They ended up with 9 wins the next year. He caught his own touchdown pass in a playoff win on the road. Like, with Derrick Henry running for like 180 yards or whatever it was in that game. Like, I think Mariota was a bigger, he wasn't a national figure, but I think the NFL liked Marcus Mariota and paid attention to him way more than Titans fans, I think, realize. Am I wrong on that?
I don't think you're wrong, but I also think that, and this is going to get way too like going from algebra to calculus, but I think that
cosine.
I think that Marcus's peak of fame coincided with a period in the NFL where there were almost certainly more household name quarterbacks than in virtually any other period in the history of the league. So Marcus was drafted in 2014. Is that right? 2015. So at the time he entered the league, there were still dinosaurs roaming the earth. Brady was still in the league. Peyton was still in the league. Breeze was still in the league. Rodgers obviously is still in the league. But like
Rodgers was at the peak of his abilities.
Yes. Yeah. You had future Hall of Famers who we already knew were future Hall of Famers. And you had the emerging class of Luck was in his prime, Russell Wilson was in his prime, Cam Newton was in his prime. And then you had the younger class that came up right after Marcus of those 17, 18, 19 draft classes that immediately usurped fame. So I do think that however relatively famous that Marcus was, he still, despite being more famous or more known than maybe Titans quarterbacks before or after him, he was still fairly low on the list of NFL quarterback fame ratings, just because there were a lot of big name quarterbacks that hadn't retired yet, and a lot of big name quarterbacks that entered the league right around the same time as him.
I'm looking at, so I would think 2016, which was his second year, which is when he had 26 touchdowns. He had over 3,500 yards passing. He had like a huge chunk of yards rushing. Drew Brees, 5,208 passing. Matt Ryan had almost 5,000 yards passing. Kirk Cousins had almost 5,000 yards passing. Rodgers, Phillip Rivers, Matt Stafford, Joe Flacco, Andrew Luck, Carson Palmer, Russell Wilson, Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, Eli Manning, Tom Brady, Cam Newton down in the 3,500s actually.
That was the year that Brady was suspended the first 4 games of the season.
Oh, that's right. Cam Newton, and then Mariota. Look, this was, I think Peyton was already out of the league.
Peyton's last year was 15. So
he was out of the league already.
If you're starting in 16, the fact that Eli was still there, Rivers was still there, Ben was still there. You had a full generation of, Peyton notwithstanding, probably 6 or 7 future Hall of Fame quarterbacks that were still
100%.
playing. On top of the fact that Russ and Luck were incredibly famous as guys who were approaching their prime at that point, on top of the fact that on top of the fact that the younger players that you mentioned, Jameis was more famous than Marcus was within the same draft.
Yeah.
And then you haven't mentioned the 17, 18, 19 guys that came out of Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, obviously Baker and Darnold and Allen and these guys that kind of emerged. There were a lot. Jordan, no, it doesn't always.
Comes back to dinosaurs with us, doesn't it?
That was a drive-by truckers reference. I thought Braden was going to like that. That was just me doing something to make my friend smile. But yeah,
I was busy looking up the numbers. I'm sorry.
There were. There were. We don't need to talk too much about 2016. What a year for famous people. But there were just a lot of really. And also, the one thing we're not mentioning is that was the summer of Colin Kaepernick.
Oh God!
There were a lot of
16.
Yeah, 16 was the year of Colin Kaepernick. There were a lot of really famous quarterbacks that were being talked about that year.
It premieres on July 14th, so middle of July, right around SEC Media Days is when it's gonna debut. I just think like Vince Young, I think had a gravitational force.
Sure,
and his talent notwithstanding, of course, but I think he just did. Cam Newton, gravitational force. Some of that is because of their skills and how unique those skills were. Cam is as basic an NFL quarterback can be in 2026. Little undersized, more of a pocket thrower. Now the things he does, which I think this is where if this documentary decides to highlight the throwback across the body touchdown passes and the get out of traffic stuff, and those are the things, because again, you're going to take 540 pass attempts, and how many are you going to see over the course of a documentary? Maybe 50, maybe 70, maybe 100. So you're going to pick the most interesting ones. And so again, they can paint him as this improvisational artist that makes this magic happen outside of the pocket, even though we know like that's not necessarily what they were trying to do last year. So again, I think Mariota was more famous, quote unquote, more Q rating, more whatever in the NFL than I think Titans fans give him credit for. I think Vince Young was maybe less than Titans fans think because it just didn't last long enough. I'm curious what you think of McNair, because McNair had a complicated relationship to start his career with the NFL and with Nashville and with the organization.
I think McNair obviously more sustained than any of them, but I would say peak fame Vince Young was more prominent than peak fame McNair. Maybe that is just my youth talking. I was obviously younger for McNair, as we all were, than I was for Vince Young. But I was a child for the McNair days. But I do think that if we're talking relative to the rest of the league, the amount of times that Vince Young led SportsCenter was the first highlight they showed, was the central talking point of the NFL. They could make a 30 for 30 documentary about that 6-week span in 2006 when Vince Young couldn't stop leading comebacks. Like there was a Jeremy Lin style. Oh,
that's okay. That's a good comp. And the difference being he had this long build-up runway.
And that's what I was going to say is there was a Jeremy Lin style peak that came after the fact of him being one of the 5 to 10 best college quarterbacks who ever lived up to that point in history. Nobody since Vince Young has reached that level of fame. I would argue that McNair, though he was certainly more well-known, I wouldn't say he was more famous. He was certainly more well-known for playing for the Titans than Vince Young was known for playing for the Titans. Yeah. But I would say Vince Young was more famous.
I think here's what's interesting, and we can kind of pivot this. Sinkers Beverages, everybody, Tennessean.com for good journalism. Go take the media survey from Press Forward, all kinds of great stuff. What I think is interesting is sort of like, how does the NFL view this organization? Because it's clear that with the rebrand, with the new uniforms and the stadium coming, and now the quarterback, like it feels like they're trying to put every single piece in place to elevate their relevance inside of the NFL hierarchy. And I think that is clearly what every organization's goal should be. How do we become more of a factor in NFL PR media decision making? I think Nashville hosting the draft in 2019 is a part of this. I don't know if this market ever gets anywhere close to the ones that matter the most. But I do think with a new stadium and new uniforms and a legitimate quarterback, if he works out to be that, I think this organization can move from, I don't know, 29th in the league to a league average, to a team that is not top of mind for PR executives and PR people and media people and documentary people inside the NFL films world, but is a second-tier choice, but is still a good choice. I don't know what the right upside is or even the right question is. I just think, like, they're not on international games yet. I think most of this is going to start in 27. I think what they're doing is they're building it for last year and this year to create this new thing that because what does the NFL really, really love? They like a new story that everyone wants to talk about. And a brand new stadium with a rookie, like a third-year quarterback with new uniforms, will be something that fans all across the country have never seen before. So this feels like priming the pump to some degree.
And let me use this as a reminder. It will surprise nobody. Maybe I've brought it up before, but it will surprise nobody to learn that I was raised on the website sporkle.com. I've played a lot of trivia quizzes in my life. And I remember
how many European capitals can you name?
At one point, all of them. Right now, probably not as many. But as of 2 summers ago, all of them.
If you can spell Reykjavik, you played Sporkle.
I remember this was circa like 2011, 2010 or so. Yeah. The just name every NFL team quiz. I was always fascinated because I was going and check the stats.
Yeah.
And I would be like, theoretically, everybody who knows one NFL team should be able to get all 32. And it would bear out that like the least guessed team was still like 87% of people knew it. Like it's very rare that somebody doesn't know one. But circa 2009, 2010, can you guess who the least known NFL team was?
I mean, it's either I assume it's not the Titans.
It was not the Titans.
Like something like the Cardinals or the Seahawks or something like West Coast. And
it was the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The Kansas City Chiefs were the least known team in the NFL circa 15 years ago.
Wow.
And now they are probably the third or fourth largest brand, if not the largest brand in the league. Like, things can change. More than anything else, you know what the NFL loves? A dynasty. They love a news story, but they also really love a Cowboys or a Patriots or a Chiefs. Winning cures everything.
Well, and they become the villain too. A dynasty part. This is what was always. We always used to have this debate about UConn women's basketball. Like, is it good for the sport that Gino Auriemma and UConn is dominating the way they are? And while it doesn't make the games more enjoyable in the national championship or whatever, but the story that you're selling your fans and the way it elevates everyone else around you, especially in a sport like women's basketball where it was still growing. Like, it was always generally good to have someone to strive to beat, to go against. And so I think that is absolutely what the NFL is good. Here's the beauty of, like, this is what makes it so stinking powerful, Nick. It doesn't matter what story you're telling. They've got something to sell you, whether it's just like with this documentary. Like, maybe they were actually going to go do Joe Burrow. And then Joe Burrow gets hurt and they're like, oh, let's switch to this old guy. Like, who knows? But Flacco has some intrigue, and no one's thought that he was an interesting player at this time last year.
I mean, we remember talking so much about the 5-way quarterback competition in Cleveland at the start of last season. Like, we were talking about Burrow, but it was more in the sense that we were talking about Shedeur.
That's fair. That's fair.
Or sorry, Flacco, not Burrow. We were talking about Flacco, yeah.
Well, didn't he get traded, though?
He got traded like week 6.
Yeah, so he was in Cincinnati, right?
No, he was in Cleveland and got traded to
got traded to Cincinnati. Okay. That's right. Why am I drawing a man? My brain. Daniels, I think, is I think Daniels and Mayfield were going to be the stars of the show, and then I'm fascinated to see what those story arcs are. But the NFL has a story. Every single quarterback, every battle, every team, every locker room, every coach, every stadium, there's a story for all of them, and they know how to sell them. I think, does the new stadium almost guarantee a primetime game next year, says Ed. Maybe 2 if they're a fringe playoff team this year. I will say absolutely. And I would guess it could be it's not going to be Sunday night game, and it's not going to be like the Wednesday or Thursday night season opening game. But like, they like to put those international games on Friday nights of the first weekend of the NFL season. But I wouldn't be surprised if by week 2 they have a Sunday night or Thursday night game. I don't know if you have any insight into this, but
Mm,
I would guess it happens very early in 27.
There are a lot of things that Titans fans, I would say, incorrectly label as NFL bias against the Titans. The Travis Hunter getting talked about more than Cam Ward during the draft thing. No, there was a big trade that happened. They were talking about the big trade. That makes sense.
With a generational player that we've never really seen before.
If the NFL does not put the Titans' grand opening of its new stadium in an exclusive window, whether that is a week 1 NFL Monday night game or a week 2 Thursday or Monday, that would be a disrespect. That would be something worth claiming. The Bills, for what it's worth, have a week 2 season home opener this year to introduce their new stadium. Sorry, getting
you also want to spread it. They also want to spread out the stories, right? Like that's part of this is if you've got Nissan Stadium, like I would guess some Monday night might be. You're not going to do NBC Sunday night. That's like too big of a viewing window. But I would guess a Monday night week 1 game could very much be possible. Because plus they do 2 of them, right? They always do 2 games on Monday night.
Yeah, I would say a week 1 Monday or a week 2 Thursday Monday would be the likeliest option.
And I would almost guarantee that that's happening. And I agree with your point that a lot of times fans think this is a slight and it's just not. But again, this is what I think they're doing. This is why this is not the reason they do new uniforms and all this other stuff, but like they are attempting to completely rebrand the organization with new coach, new GM, new quarterback, new uniform, new stadium, like the whole thing. And in doing that, the NFL has a totally new story to tell. And that is going to be a marketable commodity for them. It's on the Titans to deliver some form of entertainment, whether that's 0-17 or 17-0. It doesn't matter. They've got the team itself, by just doing its thing, has to deliver on the opportunity that they've created for themselves to some degree. So we'll see. I think I'm fascinated to see what happens with Cam Ward. Scheduling strategy stuff here from the NFL. They will have a Wednesday night game to open the season, which is New England and Seattle, a recap of the rematch of the Super Bowl. You're gonna have a Wednesday night game. Say goodbye to your family. Wednesday night game, Packers Rams, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So we're going not just Thursday games now. We got Wednesday games. You got 9 international games in Melbourne, Australia in week 1, Rio, 3 straight weeks in London, weeks 4, 5, and 6. You have a week 7 match between the Steelers and Saints in Paris, Cincinnati, Atlanta, and Madrid, New England and Detroit, in Munich, and the one I would want to go to if the Packers were playing, Minnesota and San Francisco and Mexico City in week 11. San Francisco, by the way, will play in Australia, America, and Mexico this year. It's quite a journey for the Niners. In general, do you like the scheduling strategies? Wednesday nights, Netflix, Black Friday, Thanksgiving, international. Like we all know what they're doing. So I'm just curious if you do you enjoy the idea of it all?
No, but my opinions shouldn't influence the opinions of the masses. Look, it feels a lot to me like the NFL. If you had to pick what the best NFL innovation of the last 20 years was,
first down line.
Last 20 years. The first down line's probably been around for 35 years at this point. But
35.
The best innovation is probably the Red Zone channel. Like everybody loves the Red Zone channel. Every other sport is trying to come up with its own version of the Red Zone channel. Everybody
27 years, by the way. Sorry.
27 years. Everybody liked the idea of, I get to see what's going on in all of these games all at once. And frankly, a lot of people really liked the DirecTV one with Andrew Siciliano that they got rid of. I also preferred the DirecTV.
Scott Hansen's not my Red Zone. # not my Red Zone host.
Yeah. And so what the NFL's done in the last 2 years is, number one, halved the quality of Red Zone by only doing the Scott Hansen Red Zone, and also took so many games off of Sunday afternoon that the quality of its most beloved, most popular innovation is continuing to be devalued because there are fewer and fewer games to follow. And
you know who's filled that gap is cable providers because YouTube TV started with the quad box, and I don't need Red Zone anymore because I watched the quad box. I picked the 4 games, I watched that on YouTube TV, and I think Xfinity copied them by giving multi-view as well. Multi-view has changed the game for sure.
For what it's worth, DirecTV did have multi-view at the same time that it had.
But they were 8 of them, and it was too small.
I get that, but look, I think that one of the things that makes American football so special is the relative scarcity of the sport. If you love an NFL team, you're only guaranteed to get to see them play 17 times a year. If you love a college football team, you're only guaranteed to see them play 12 times a year. The thing that makes it more special than, say, loving a basketball team or loving a baseball team is the lack of opportunity to see them. So if you are a dedicated fan, you are going to watch your team, whether it's 1 o'clock on a Sunday or 7:25 p.m. on a Wednesday. The NFL is doing a very good job of creating exclusive window opportunities with marquee teams, with big name teams, and finding fans where they are to make the casual games that you wouldn't have watched if your team was playing more exciting. They have eliminated the 2015 to 2019 style Thursday night game of let's bury these two teams that nobody really cares about on a Thursday night and see if people will watch it. And they have more and more.
Amazon's not going to pay for that.
And they have more and more started giving Netflix and Amazon and the larger streamers prominent games to meet people where they are. More people have Netflix, more people have Prime. These things are starting to pace linear TV in a way that linear TV probably doesn't like very much.
And they have as much money, if not more.
Yes. And so you've taken away the streaming package from DirecTV and given it to YouTube TV, which is a very different business model. The idea of moving the most important games to streaming, the idea of moving the most important games to exclusive windows hurts the product if you are somebody who likes to watch the NFL as a collection. It augments the products if you are somebody who is a casual fan. And we are all here as extreme top 5, top 1% NFL fans. I mean, we are here talking about and listening to people talk about the National Football League
on a football show
May 14th on a random Thursday 6 months outside of when the season's going to be at its peak. We all understand that we are the extreme outside fringe of people who care about the National Football League.
Sinkers beverages, everybody.
So, no, I don't love what the NFL has done with its schedule dynamics, but I also understand that it is not designed for somebody like me to love it. It's designed for somebody who might only watch 3 or 4 games a year to actually tune into the games that they want to see.
Coach Will says, if we ever get a Titans-Jags Thursday night game that matters, a single tear will run down my face. I will tell stories to my son of those color rush moments. Look, I think here's what's interesting. We do have 4 games. The revenge game number 1, not lost on I think everyone involved in this. Jets at Titans in week number 1. Robert Saleh against his old team, obviously done on purpose. Tennessee at the Giants in week 3. A lot of storylines there. We know about that one, considering all of the Giants crossover with Dayball and the players. Week 12, Tennessee at Jacksonville. And, of course, you got the last 2 number 1 picks in Cam Ward and Fernando Mendoza. Week 16, Tennessee at Vegas. Here's my thing. We know the season finale is going to be against, I would guess that the season finale would be at home. The last game of Nissan Stadium, final game of the season, at home in the division. The question is, who's it going to be? Jacksonville, Houston, or Indianapolis? And I want to know from all of you, last game in the history of this building. I doubt there's a playoff spot on the line, but you never know. Traditionally, there's been a lot of Jags-Titans games that some have meant a lot and some have meant very little. I'm curious what you want to see in the season finale in the last game of Nissan Stadium history. Do you want it to be the Texans with like the uniform thing, or do you want it to be Jags? Do you want it to be the Colts, which is more of a rivalry? Like, what do you want to see?
I have always been of the opinion that Titans Jags is the most important of those 3 games, which I know is probably the third out of 3 opinions. The Colts have always been the most relevant team. The Texans have the most emotional rivalry. Titans Jags is a game that always feels to me like it is the actual rivalry. And maybe that's because of the old AFC Central ties. Maybe that's because of the significance of the 1999 season when both teams were good. Maybe that is because of the love that I share for the Thursday night Color Rush games.
But I think the Jags are above the Texans. I think that whole Amy Adams Strunk ownership uniform thing is like kind of, I don't want to say fabricated, but I think it's in a pretty small corner of the internet. I think the Jags is the bigger rivalry than Houston. I think the Colts is the number 1 rivalry.
It's just so one-sided.
Yeah,
it's hard to call that a rival. I think about I think it was a John Boyce line in one of his old videos, but he described the Saints and Falcons as the Beavis and Butthead of the NFL. And I kind of think of the Titans and Jags in a very similar vein of not that they're bad, not that they're poor franchises, but just truly of when the rest of the NFL sees these 2 teams playing each other, they're like, huh, didn't really think about that being a thing. That's a thing. That's cool.
And it's going to end with the backup quarterback maybe throwing a forward pass or fumbling. We're not sure.
It's just I love.
And the winner goes to the playoffs.
if there was any justice, and I know this is impossible for 2 very practical reasons. I know that the Titans play this team on the road, not at home, and I know that this team is not in the division, so Week 18 is not on the table. If there were any justice, the last game would be against the Ravens.
Yeah.
Because that's, to me, the actual real rivalry.
No, I agree.
And that, to me, is the team that has the player who should close out Nissan Stadium. No disrespect to anybody on the current Titans roster. But the fact that Derrick Henry is never going to play at Nissan Stadium again is... He's never going to play at Nissan Stadium
except for the AFC Championship game, of course.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Obviously, so here's the thing. Home games, they will play the 3 in the division. They'll play Cleveland, the Jets, and Pittsburgh. We know they're going to play the Jets in Week 1. They'll also play the Eagles and the Commanders. So no A.J. Brown there probably because of the trade that's coming, I assume, the first week of June. So you have those teams. And then you go to Baltimore, to Cincinnati. We've already mentioned the Giants and the Raiders, those 2 traveling in Week 3 and Week 16. And then Dallas and Detroit. So you do get the whole Cleveland Brown thing coming to town, which will be very interesting. You've got maybe Aaron Rodgers coming back. I don't know if there's any news on that potentially. You've got Jalen Hurts and you got maybe a Jayden Daniels return. So not a marquee slate of quarterbacks potentially, but there's some intrigue in there for sure. Certainly the more headline grabbing games: Detroit, Dallas, Cincinnati, Baltimore, all those on the road. So we'll see what happens when they actually lay out the schedule tonight. It's less interesting to me because the NFL's dragged it out so much more this year. It's already less interesting to me than they make it out to be, but I know what they're doing. They're a content machine that needs to fill every week with a tentpole event. I get it. So it'll be interesting to see what their schedule is. I don't think it will change our predictions for the team. If you think this team is a 6 or 7 win team, I don't know if the schedule makes any difference of how it's laid out in terms of where you're going to pick them. So, all right.
I was going to say the one last note I would put on it is the 3 games that I personally had signaled in my head as the likeliest primetime opportunities were at Jacksonville, Giants, and Jets, which are 3 of the 4 that have already been leaked, and none of those are in primetime. So I am losing a little bit of hope that it's not going to be another 17 Sunday season.
I don't even know which. I mean, Baltimore, if again, to your point, if it was at home, I think you might put it in prime time. Dallas and Detroit, because of the AFC NFC thing, doesn't make it a primetime thing. I could see the Bengals game being in primetime. I could see that.
I could see Pittsburgh with Saleh and Rodgers if that's a thing. Yeah. Like that's a possibility. The Steelers play a lot of primetime games. But yes, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I am just saying it starts to feel like less of a certain. It feels less certain than maybe it did when the Giants were on the table.
Mariota starting for the Commanders week 18 at Nissan Stadium to close it out. They're going to put a division game, of course, but that's funny. I like that. Last one here. So I was arguing with somebody, a friend of mine on another platform, about the Texans-Jags game in London, which I think is the third one there, week 6. I think that's Wembley Stadium, I think. I'm not sure. I know the Colts and the Commanders are going to play at Tottenham. What I find fascinating, so somebody was like, God, nobody wants to be subjected to AFC South football. And I was like, they won 25 games last year. Like the old AFC joke, in my opinion, does not work. The Titans are interesting. You can't argue that they're not interesting with the new uniform and all the stuff we've talked about. Cam Ward's clearly, Netflix and the NFL have decided Cam Ward is interesting. We'll see if the rest of the fans do, but he's interesting. And you may not love Houston and Jacksonville from like a brand standpoint, and you may think, oh, they're just putting them in London because they want to move the Jags there, and the Jags will be there back-to-back weeks and play 2 quote-unquote home games in London. But Houston and Jacksonville are 2 of the best teams in the league. They're 2 of the best teams in the AFC. They won 25 games last year, and here's I'm going to go out on a limb here with 56 minutes in this show. I think the Texans are going to the Super Bowl, y'all. Like, I think this team is, like, if they figure out their offensive line, that defense is going to win them almost every game. And they're going to be even better on defense than they were last year. I think the quarterback, you have to expect him to take a step forward. They have stockpiled talent, offensive weapons around him. It's a bunch of B-plus weapons, and then Nico, but if the offensive line is just like 14th in the NFL, that team could win the whole thing. Yeah, am I crazy for thinking the Texans are going to win the Super Bowl?
No, I mean, I wrote this week that I think the Texans are the best team on the Titans schedule this year. And the Titans play the Ravens, and they play the Lions, and they play the Eagles, and they play a lot of incredibly, incredibly talented teams. Yeah. I think the Texans have a risk of being a little bit one-dimensional on offense. I think there is a chance that teams can pin their ears back and rush because they don't have to trust the running game. Other than that, I do think that the Texans are very, very good. I would say the Jacksonville Jaguars are about as prime of a regression candidate team as the NFL has this year. You lose a lot of key pieces in free agency. You have a draft that doesn't immediately approach adding premium talent, and you already overperformed expectations the previous year. That does feel like a team that is probably closer to 7 or 8 wins than it is to what did it win, 13 last year?
Well, it was 13 and 12. I would pick the Texans clearly as number 1 in the division. So we can move that because we both agree on that. I think I agree with your point. I think they're regression, but I think it's more like 9 or 10 wins.
Maybe. We'll see how they can respond without Travis Etienne. We'll see how they can respond without Devin Lloyd. Like, they've lost some key players, but obviously you get a full year of Travis Hunter if he's healthy. You get what probably figures to be a bounce back year for Brian Thomas, who was mostly a non-factor last year.
No ETN, right? They lost ETN, right?
Yes. Sorry, I said it the Cajun way, so maybe we.
Oh, Etienne. I was thinking Devin Etienne. I was like, I think he plays for the Dolphins.
No. I said.
No, you're right. You're right. Emi.
But yeah, I think they are a regression team, whether that means 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins. I don't think they're going to win 13 again this year. I think they still will compete for a playoff spot, but I think they are closer to the Colts than they are to the Texans.
If you could go to one of these international locations, where would you want the Titans to play?
Of the 9, of the 7,
or you can add, like, you don't have to do Madrid. You could do Barcelona. You could do Rome. You could add something if you wanted to, because it's clear that's what's going to happen. They're just going to keep adding games.
I think Munich sounds really fun. I think that the Germany game has always looked very fascinating to me. I'm also thinking of where would I want to go on have a day in a foreign country with wife who would come with me. And I know Germany would be very high on that one too. If they played
Melbourne would be cool.
If they played somewhere more coastal, obviously that would be fun as well. If it was like,
you want the Titans to play in Turks and Caicos?
We're playing in Sicily or whatever. That would be fun. Right. What's Becca yelling downstairs?
I said, oh, that would be amazing.
She
Paris.
Yeah.
Rio is what makes that really interesting. Like, Rio is really interesting to me, honestly, out of all these, and it's probably because of the ease of the travel, and because of the food, and because I've never been before. But Mexico City's at the top of my list. Like, Mexico City is really high on my list for where I want to go. I've not been to Germany, but I've been to England England, France, and Spain. I've been to all those, and they're all amazing. I've not been to Germany, but Bayern Munich Stadium is that's a great stadium for them to play in. I assume they're playing in Bayern Munich Stadium.
Yeah.
But Mexico City, that if you got like Titans Raiders in Mexico City, that would be really cool. That would be great. And I think Mexico City is one of the most underrated North American cities. Full stop. Like period. I think it's everybody that I've ever spoken to that's gone raves about it.
I will be honest, I am a little bit terrified of the idea of like a Melbourne or Sydney game. I do not want to fly that far. I would love to spend a week halfway there and then fly the other half of the way. I just don't want knowing the
South Africa,
just like knowing the NFL travel schedule of you guys don't need to care about this, but like, let's say the Titans play in Buffalo. That will mean I land in Buffalo at like 7 p.m. on Saturday, and I leave Buffalo at 5 a.m. on Monday. And if you are in that city for a day and a half, the idea of flying 3 days so that you can be in Australia for a day and a half seems like a not good thing.
But why would you do that, though? Now I'm just asking you personally. Why wouldn't you fly down a week before and spend a week there?
Because the company wouldn't probably pay for that.
Well, no, the company pays for the flight either way. You just got to cover a couple extra nights of hotel on your own, right?
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Oh my God, to be in Australia for 3 extra days? Of course you will. I'll pay for you to do that. Jesus,
I'll hold you to that.
I'll give you $200 a night for an Airbnb in Melbourne for you to cover the game. Hell yeah, I would do that. That's ridiculous.
I don't think the finances would line up, and I think the jet lag would annoy me.
Well, they're playing the game. What's funny is they have to put on the schedule like in America, September 11th. In Melbourne, September 10th is when the game starts.
Yes.
Which is great because of the international dateline, of course. I just would love to see a Titans. I think it would be Titans Raiders. I think would be the best game to see in Mexico City. That would be my number one. Otherwise, I'd like to go to South America. I'd like to go to Rio. That'd be cool. Me and my dad and my brother and my cousin and my uncle, who all go to Lambeau once a year for Green Bay games. We were trying to figure out could we get to Rio last year for the Eagles game to start the season, and it's like a 14-hour flight. it's brutal, but no jet lag. You still are in the same time zone, which is kind of crazy. The London one was my daughter's birthday, so I couldn't go, but I would have gone to the London Packers Giants game a couple years ago. So if the Titans are traveling, though, if I'm a fan of a team, I love this stuff because it's a great excuse to go to to travel, take your family, go do something super fun in a place you normally wouldn't go. And oh, by the way, while you're there, you get to watch your favorite NFL team. I think they're growing the brand out there for the world to see. I get why they're doing it. The games themselves don't translate better on TV, but getting to showcase a city like that to American audience, I think it's on the whole a net positive for people in America, even if Jaguars fans lose home games.
Yeah, I have no problem broadly with the NFL playing abroadly, but we'll see. I next year, if the Titans end up in Dublin, I wouldn't be surprised, and I think that would be a very fun game if that return trip happens. I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans end up in one of the second or third times they've played in a market in Spain or Germany. I don't know if the Titans are ever going to open up a new market. It's our first time playing in Wellington, New Zealand. Let's send the Titans. But
here's the other thing you need to consider, and I think they're smart here. The Saints, for example, playing in Paris, not an accident.
Right.
Extreme heavy French culture in Louisiana, not an accident. You know where you can get a direct flight from BNA? Outside of London and Reykjavik. Those are the only two, not to mention Reykjavik twice on a show, but those two cities get direct flights. There's only one other international city that gets a direct flight in Europe, and it's Dublin.
Yeah.
And that has to be a major consideration. Would you wouldn't that be Patriots, not to totally stereotype Boston, but if you're trying to draw a connection like the Saints to France, wouldn't you do New England and the Titans? I mean, there's a Vrabel tie there, obviously, but
that would make sense. I know I've heard this secondhand, and I've heard this from talking to the guys who host the Irish NFL show. But the city of Dublin actually does have a really interesting kinship with Nashville. They have a really big love of country music because our stringed instruments sound a lot like their stringed instruments. I have talked to a friend who told me she was walking through just like a park or a field of some kind in Ireland and came across essentially a Johnny Cash lookalike contest where a bunch of people were dressed as Johnny Cash and playing his music. There is a, to some degree, there is a actual kinship that Nashville has with Dublin. But if the Titans really want to play a game in a city other than Nashville that speaks to their heritage, there's always Houston.
I thought you were gonna say, like, what about actually Athens? Because then you could have Athens of the South playing in actual Athens. Titans playing Greece. There we go. See, Z-Dean.
Oh, I thought you meant at like Sanford Stadium.
You got me to it.
I'm
no, that's a far better All-American football stadium than any stadiums we've talked about. All right. Anyway, international games. There'll be some. Do you have any? So like, guys, don't use AI to produce your videos tonight. Okay.
Yeah, the
NFL teams, don't do that. Don't do that nonsense.
If I'm going to hit you with a Sketch Comedy Nerds 3 rules here of how to judge the schedule releases when you see them. If you want to have a discerning eye to understand why what you're seeing and why it works and why it doesn't work. Rule number 1, if any of the videos are longer than 2 minutes, they are automatically disqualified. No long videos.
How long was the Chargers last year? Like 6 or something?
I don't remember. Like the Ravens one that was like a 7-minute severance pastiche. Don't do that.
Your joke last one?
Pastiche.
Okay, keep going.
Rule number 2. Remember, if you're making the same joke over and over again, the returns are going to diminish. So a lot of the times you are going to see people that have one strong concept and they do not escalate their joke. They just continue to do the same version of the same joke. That is not going to work. It is going to be unfun, and your video is going to start to stink after about 3 or 4 jokes. To the third rule that Sergeant Bubbles is alluding to here, if you are trying to peddle in controversy, remember that satire of the moment is going to date you a lot more than satire of specificity. If you are going to make jokes that reference the pop culture moment of today, it is going to be a lot harder for people to remember the thing you've done because they're not going to remember the pop culture moment of today. I think last year with Sky Rizzy was actually a very, very good.
They did a very good job. Yeah.
I thought that was very good. I thought it was really good to not go back to the Broadway.
Oh my God.
For a third time. I thought the second one was, I watched them both back yesterday. The second one didn't work.
The first one was spectacular.
The first one was spectacular.
Second one was a total whiff.
The first one worked because of the pacing, because the joke never got stale, because you never knew when in the edit they were going to cut to the joke. Sometimes somebody would say one word and you cut to the logo. Sometimes there would be a long buildup and you cut to the logo. There's a really good pacing thing there. It was like this week, if you guys watched SNL this week, the sketch they did with Marcello and Keenan and Matt Damon, where they were talking about dads getting their butts kicked. The pacing of the joke was the thing that made it going, because it wasn't like line, then he kicked my ass, line, then he kicked my ass. There was a lot of poetry to the 1-line joke, 4 lines joke, 9 minutes joke.
I think Matt Damon's I think he might have a career in this acting thing.
He's pretty
the schedule Rizzy was, I thought, very creative, and even though it felt to your point, kind of not necessarily timely, like you're saying, it was kind of risky in that sense, right? Because like you have to know what Sky Rizzy is, and you have to know, but really everyone knows that we're being inundated with pharmaceutical.
And so
all the time.
The peg wasn't Sky Rizzy. The peg was pharmaceutical ad, which is a much more familiar. And the thing that worked so well about it is I think it was like 90 seconds long.
It was it was like that's right.
They didn't belabor the joke. There were several moves that you probably had 3 or 4 different genre of joke within the one parody, and it was quick. Get in, get out. Don't tell the same joke over and over again. And don't just be like, oh, this is popular right now. We're going to go viral right now, because then it's going to get forgotten.
One of the worst part of the Sky Rizzy thing was the fact that they did not use any good quality local craft beer. And I'm not even kidding about that. I think they used a bunch of like international conglomerate beer that probably paid for the production value of that really well produced video. But if you're doing that, like, put some local stuff in there. Put some East Nashville Beer Works in there, some Yazoo, some Tennessee Brew Works. Put some of that stuff in there. You don't need to do big conglomerate light beer like you did, which I get it. Their pockets are deep and they pay for that. But, get some good local craft beer that you can get at Sinkers Beverages and put that in your video if you're going to do that.
And remember, more than anything, being funny is very, very hard. If you have ever played a game like Cards Against Humanity or Quiplash or any of those games, you will be very aware that most of your friends and most of your family don't know what funny is. It's hard to know what is funny. So give people grace that most people aren't funny. It's a professional skill. It is.
And as my wife tells me all the time, I am not funny. I was very disappointed in the beer in the video last year, though. I didn't make that up for sponsor purposes. I thought that was cheesy because I think there was a line in there, something like, just drink some of the best beer in the world. And it was like, here's a Bud Light. And I was like, no, that's not the best beer in the world. Anyway, go to Sinkers, everybody. Support good local businesses. Drink good local craft beer. East Nashville Beer Works, Yazoo, and of course Tennessee Brew Works. And make sure to support good journalism. Tennessean.com, where you can learn everything you need to know about the Titans' travel schedule this year and the rules of sketch comedy.
Yes,
and why Tyrannosaurus Rex arms never evolved beyond little tiny arms.
I don't know if you are listening to this show, but to the one person who last year during a Week 17 game emailed me a long question about why there are more mockumentary sitcoms on TV now than there used to be, thank you so much for being Reader of the Year.
Is a mockumentary sitcom like Jury Duty? And
no, a mockumentary kind of, but it's more The Office. It's more a fake documentary, not a...
I mean, it is a fake...
Yeah. It is. It's more... Mockumentary is the term used to describe the Spinal Tap style of filming. Jury Duty is more like prank show mockumentary.
Yeah, it's its own genre, isn't it?
Yes.
Have you watched Company Retreat?
Not yet.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. What a concept. My favorite part of those shows is when the main character, who's not an actor, isn't around and anywhere near the scene.
Yeah.
And they're still all in character.
Yeah.
I find that great.
If you guys want to know what I've been watching a lot of recently, been watching a lot of Maude. Been watching a lot of Good Times. Some just like 70s Norman Lear shows.
Man, I am in my peak soccer girl era, dude. I watched the Jamie Vardy documentary that came out yesterday on Netflix. And I am, if you are putting out high level soccer content right now, football around, like I'm going to go back and rewatch the two Escobars today, probably. Like World Cup's coming. Nashville SC is the best club in North America. My kids are playing travel ball. Like I went to a match in Europe last October. Like I am peak soccer girl era right now. And if you give me a documentary about Lexi Lawless's hair, I would watch it. Like I'm in on it right now. I'm in that place where like I feel like I need supplementals now. Like I never needed a supplemental in my life. Now I want one.
Very cool. We're long. I'll just say watch SNL UK on Peacock. It's incredible.
SNL UK is better.
This season it has been incredible. It has been.
You watch both? Do you watch both of them every time, like in real time?
I don't have Sky TV, so I don't watch UK in real time, but I watch it as soon as it comes out in the United States.
Wow, you're committed, man. I respect that. All right, thank you guys all for listening and hanging out. It's been an extra long show today. I do appreciate you, Nick. Go subscribe. Good journalism, Tennessean.com. My name is Braden Gall. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.